Good afternoon, and welcome to a candidate forum featuring candidates for Sacramento District 3 City Council. I'm Heather Skinkle, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the moderator for today's forum. This forum is co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. The forum is being viewed live by an audience in the Sacramento Board of Supervisors chambers and by a live cable television audience at home. It is also being taped for rebroadcast on Metro Cable, Channel 14, and you can see the rebroadcast of this forum every Sunday until Election Day. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate political candidates or parties. Although our nonpartisanship policy does not permit endorsement of political candidates, we do, after careful study, take positions on political issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 1-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from our panel. The questions were submitted by the panelists and reviewed by League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Finally, the candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. In the interest of time and decorum, I ask our audience to hold all applause until the end of the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates who are running for Sacramento District 3 City Council. To my right, Mr. Cyril Shaw. To my left, Mr. Jeff Harris. Welcome and thank you both for participating in today's forum. Sitting on our panel of questioners are Cosmo Garvin from Sacramento News and Review, Rahim Hosseini, also from Sacramento News and Review, and Kayla Nick Kearney from the State Hornet. Thank you for joining us today. We are now ready to begin. We'll start with the opening statements. Mr. Shaw will go first.
Thank you. I'm Cyril Shaw, and I'm running for City Council in Sacramento District 3. First, want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. Also want to thank our members of the press from Sacramento News and Review and the Sac State Hornet for participating. I want to talk very briefly about my passion for Sacramento. I love Sacramento. Sacramento is the place that I grew up. Sacramento is the place that embraced my parents, who are immigrants from India, gave them jobs, also gave me and my sister an excellent K-12 public education from dedicated teachers who taught us not just lessons in academics, but also lessons in life. I was fortunate to get into UC Berkeley, graduate with a degree in economics, and 17 years ago, Sacramento gave me another opportunity, the opportunity to start my career here in the place that I love as a financial advisor. I began giving back to Sacramento at a very young age, and that has led to a tremendous amount of volunteer work, public service on a number of public boards and commissions, and my neighborhood association board, and ultimately to me running for City Council so I can represent the people of District 3.
Thank you. On to you.
I'm Jeff Harris. I would also like to thank the panel and the League of Women Voters for all they do to preserve our democracy, especially around election time. I'm a small businessman. I've lived in River Park for 25 years, and I'm chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission for the City of Sacramento. In that capacity, I was able to help craft and pass Measure U, which brought back police jobs, fire jobs, parks and recreation jobs. I'm a practical person, a builder. I create positive solutions to difficult questions. I won the primary. It was on a very small budget. I did so by making strategic decisions and by engendering substantial public support. The SAC-B has endorsed me. They called me the strongest candidate for the job. The Sacramento News and Review said that I would be a formidable council member. I've worked with the council members, with heads of departments in the city government, and I welcome the chance to continue that work.
Thank you. Our first question will be asked by Cosmo, and we'll start with Mr. Harris.
Okay, great, thanks. Most large California cities like San Jose and San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco have ethics commissions with the power to subpoena records, enforce ethics rules, and issue fines. The strong mayor proposal on the ballot this fall, Measure L, provides for something a little different, an ethics committee with no enforcement power. Should we stick with the city's current ethics rules? Should we adopt the ethics committee proposed in Measure L, or should we go with something different like the ethics commissions found in those other cities?
Cosmo, thank you for the question. So I do not support Measure L, and one reason is because of the ethics committee that's proposed. It really is a sweetener for the deal. It doesn't really approach what we need, and that is an ethics commission with an enforceable power. That's the way we can keep our electives on the straight and narrow path and give our constituents the information that they need as we move forward in our process. There are many tough decisions to be made moving ahead. Measure L, it gives the mayor extraordinary veto power and actually a supermajority to overturn a mayoral veto. I don't think that's good for Sacramento. I believe that our city council manager form of government has served us well. What we really need is not a stronger mayor. What we need is a stronger council. We need people who are willing to engage in creative and constructive debate to move our city forward.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw?
Thank you. I am in favor of an ethics commission in the city of Sacramento that has teeth and that has the ability to enforce things. I'm against Measure L. I think that the current form of government, while not perfect, creates a good balance between the neighborhoods and the city. As a past president of my neighborhood association, the East Sacramento Improvement Association, and a board member for more than 10 years, I recognize that it's important to have that balance. As it relates to the Ethics Commission, whether Measure L passes or not, if you elect me as your council member, I will push for an Ethics Commission, because the Ethics Commission is going to have to be passed by the City Council either way. And I'll be detail-oriented, make sure that the Ethics Commission stays unbiased and has the ability to enforce actions.
Thank you. Second question will go to Rahim, and we'll start with Mr. Shaw.
Thank you. Let's say you had the power to change one aspect of the arena deal between the city and the Kings ownership group. What would it be?
It's a good question. One thing that I would like to see is I'd like to see more affordable housing built throughout the county. I'd also like to see more market rate housing built downtown in the vicinity of the arena. And so if I could change one thing about the deal, it would be to allow some of the resources from the economic revitalization that will take place downtown to not only serve the neighborhoods, but serve the most vulnerable members of our community. I spent 8 years on the Housing and Redevelopment Commission working with a number of these individuals, with hundreds of these individuals, in fact. And I recognize that it's important that we maintain our commitment. As we prosper as a community, let's not leave anyone behind. Let's help the most vulnerable members of our community. So that's what I would change.
So I would like to see the community benefits agreement be strengthened. I would like, as Mr. Shaw said, affordable housing to be a component of all the ancillary development that we are going to embrace downtown. One thing of concern to me about the Kings Agreement is the rate at which the bonds are going to be sold, the interest rate. It's very high. It means that the total cost to the city of Sacramento will be quite high. That being said, another aspect that we should focus on as well, the arena will create a lot of traffic downtown. We're trying to engender public transit and bike ped transit. We need to work with the Kings owners to make sure that they fund traffic striping, lane striping, and barriers so that cycling downtown in our downtown grid is far more safe than it is currently.
Thank you. The next question goes to Kayla, and we'll start with Mr. Shaw.
In the last city council cycle, 2 letters were sent regarding the Valero Benicia crude oil project by the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. How will you address safety and fiscal concerns about that plan?
It's an important question, and if you elect me as your council member, what I will do is I will approach this from a local level to be sure that our communities, that our neighborhoods are safe, and that our city is safe. I think it's important, one, that there's transparency. We need to know what's being shipped through our city so that we can be well prepared. I serve as a flood control trustee on the American River Flood Control Board of Trustees and a SAFCA director. That's another public safety issue. It's that same type of approach, knowing what types of issues we face, and then protecting the community, protecting our neighborhoods. And the first step towards that end is transparency and knowing what's being shipped on those trains through Sacramento.
So I believe the City Council could work with the Director of Railroads to what the City of Sacramento could do is write a letter to the Director saying that we do not want these train loads of Bakken crude shipped through City Center. It doesn't make sense. The Bakken crude oil is very volatile. It is a danger, a clear and present danger to Sacramento. Kamala Harris is engaged in a lawsuit with the railroads, and that will be disputed in federal court. But as a municipality, as a city, we can reinforce that and say, as a council with a unified voice, that we demand that these trains be rerouted around city centers, and also that the rail cars themselves are the newer type of rail car that are much safer. Currently, the crude is being shipped in antiquated containers, and that's not acceptable to run through an area where you have a very dense population.
Thank you. Cosmo will ask the next question, and Mr. Harris will go first.
Okay. Can you give us your take on the current plans for redevelopment of the downtown rail yards? In particular, do you think the current owners are planning for enough housing in that area? And also, what role do you believe the city should play, if any, in the development of a Major League Soccer stadium in that area?
So the rail yards are a really significant development in Sacramento. It can change the face of our city altogether. I would love to see an anchor tenant in UC Davis with their World Food Institute. And Major League Soccer could also be a player, but I don't believe that the public should subsidize another stadium. It's very important that our new growth be smart, green infill with smart grid technology, and that we bring more residents to downtown. If we're going to revitalize our city center, we have to have more residents. That's the way to support business moving forward. I'm very excited. I was at the dedication of the new county courthouse site on 6th Street the other day. So we're about to start on a period of great growth for the city. That'll be probably the first building constructed. But if you look at the 2006 specific plan for the rail yards, the vision that's on the city website is an excellent one. It brings a lot of new residents downtown, and I think that it will transform our city.
So regarding housing at the rail yards is part of District 3, for those that aren't aware. And as far as the housing component goes, it's very important that not only that we build housing on that site, but that we start building it right away. I had the opportunity to meet with both Inland, the company from Chicago that had the rail yard and is in the process of transitioning that to Larry Kelly and Denton Kelly. And in that meeting, what we talked about is the great opportunities that we have at that rail yard site. There's the opportunity for us to partner with UC Davis, have either a satellite campus or a Food and Ag Institute. Not only will it create jobs, but it will help put Sacramento more on the map as a place that has research jobs, high-paying jobs that people can feed a family on. And as far as soccer goes, I love soccer. I want to make sure that if we do build a stadium, we do it in a responsible way. I think the sport of soccer helps us embrace our diversity, and Sacramento is a very diverse place.
Thank you. Our next question will be asked by Rahim, and Mr. Shah will go first.
Do you support renewing Measure U? And what else should be done to help the city avoid the fiscal cliff that finance officials have identified?
So I supported Measure U, and I'm very happy to see that we have, with the funding for Measure U, 87 new patrol officers, SAC PD patrol officers, that will be coming online. Many of them are still in training or at the academy, but it's important that District 3 has a council member that will be able to get the neighborhoods in District 3 their fair share of those public safety resources, and that's what I'll do. As far as renewing Measure U, I'd like to see more sustainable forms of revenue as opposed to the Band-Aid approach of a sales tax being renewed. It's set to sunset, and that was created for a reason. I'd like to help create jobs and prosperity in Sacramento and have ideas where I can do that in 3 key areas, and I'd like that revenue to help support public safety, parks, libraries, and the general fund.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I did help to create and write Measure U, and I'm very proud of that work. It has created substantial restorations of city services, but not complete restoration. And I would advocate that we allocate funds so that our parks are maintained, our police and fire populations are up to their full complement. Moving forward, we have substantial fiscal challenges in Sacramento, and it's not something that you can sugarcoat. We have pension liabilities that are very big. We have an additional load on the general fund from the adoption of the arena project. So at this point, it's almost certain that Measure U will be reintroduced to the public. I, like my opponent here, would love to create an economic boom in Sacramento, but it's really not likely to reach the point of the $31 million that Measure U brings in now. So we'll have a tough choice. I would like the measure to sunset, but realistically, we'll have to readopt it.
Thank you. Kayla will ask our next question, and Mr. Harris will go first.
West Sacramento has done a great job in the last few decades of developing its land around the river with the Rivercat Stadium, and even as recently as this past weekend, having a nationally known music festival. What are your plans to do the same with the land on our side of the river?
So, as a Parks Commissioner, you know, we have had big concerts at Discovery Park. They've been popular, but we've also had some opposition to them. Our park system is really tremendous, and along the river, I feel that we could benefit substantially by doing a greater development upon our riverbank. There had been plans to do a promenade all the way down to Garcia Bend, but those plans were shuttled, again, for more major projects like the arena. As we move forward with our economic growth, I think we can capitalize upon our riverfront, and that we should. We should build there. We should make it actually a destination for tourism. Our river is our strength in this community. It's really our lifeblood. We have to do a lot more with it to capitalize upon that amenity.
I think there's a great opportunity to improve our riverfront and to accentuate the American River, the Sacramento River, two of the greatest assets that we have here in Sacramento. As I mentioned, I grew up in Sacramento, and while there's been incremental change around the river, some of it very positive, there hasn't been anything quite transformative yet. I've been talking to business leaders throughout Sacramento. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Sacramento Metro Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Sacramento Central Labor Council, about how we can generate economic activity downtown, including on the riverfront, and create high-paying jobs so that people can support their family.
Thank you. Next question to Cosmo, and Mr. Shaw will begin.
Great, thanks. Can you talk about the role of money in city council elections and what, if anything, you would do to change the city's campaign finance system?
So there is there's definitely a need for campaign finance reform, particularly at the local level. And I think what we found is that any time that locally or at other levels that we've taken as a community or as a city, a state, a country, that we've taken incremental steps towards campaign finance reform, there have been some adverse effects. The wealthiest of the wealthy end up being the ones that have the ability to communicate with the voters. That's not what we need. We don't need more incremental steps. We need to take the big step. The big step is publicly funded campaigns. campaigns. I would support a measure to publicly fund campaigns so that instead of spending time, I know as a candidate the amount of time and energy that I have to spend going out and raising money in order to communicate. I'd rather spend that time talking about my experience, talking about my ideas, so that voters can make an informed decision.
So I have found that money plays a very influential role in politics and here in Sacramento. I've run a grassroots campaign on a very small budget, and yet I was able to prevail by substantial outreach to the voters. We have in City Code currently, and it was adopted in 2002, a provision to publicly finance city council campaigns. It was defunded after the recession hit, but I think it's a very good plan. It would front $20,000 to potential city council candidates if they accepted an $88,000 cap on what they would raise for their campaign. We need to empower more qualified people to run for city council. The amount of money involved in this race is very substantial on my opponent's part. So what we need to do is this public financing so that special interests don't have a stranglehold on the city council. At this point, I can happily say I'm beholden to no one. My decisions are my own. They've been very clear and very forthright and very unwavering. And you can only do that if you have not been funded by special interests.
Thank you. Raheem will ask the next question, and Mr. Harris will start.
According to data from the U.S. Department of Education, the number of Sacramento County school children who experienced some form of homelessness rose to nearly 12,000 last year. Almost 22% of those attend schools in the Sacramento City Unified School District. What specifically can the city do to help stabilize these families?
So we currently have Sacramento Steps Forward, and it's a new city agency that was really created to address homelessness head-on. The statistics about homeless children in our society are really abhorrent, and we can do a lot about it. Under Sacramento Steps Forward, we can consolidate all the various services that we have available to us already. There's federal money available specifically to deal with homeless children and youth, and we can make use of that. Additionally, it's very important to note that our homelessness problem is pervasive throughout the city, applying not only to youth, but also to veterans and people who are down on their luck because of the recession. With the new agency, Sacramento Steps Forward, I believe that we have a very significant opportunity to make substantial improvements in our homeless situation. If we do, our small businesses will prosper, we'll create very compassionate solutions for people who live on our streets. We can make our streets safer and free up emergency responders.
So I'm very proud of the work that I've done as a Housing and Redevelopment Commissioner to put roofs over the heads of individuals that were formerly homeless, or roofs over the heads that would otherwise be homeless if we didn't provide the housing for them. As far as it relates to school children, particularly in Sac City schools, my daughter's a first grader in Sac City Unified School District. I think there's one thing that we can do immediately, locally, that could have a large positive impact on this population. I was just at the Celebrate Natomas fair today, and I was talking to a woman from Natomas Unified School District who works in food services, and we were talking about the need for healthy, nutritious lunches, not only to feed school children, but also to educate them about the value of making good choices when it comes to their nutrition. That's one thing we can do immediately at the local level to help school children, in addition to putting roofs over their heads.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions, so we'll move to the closing statements, and Mr. Harris will go first.
So as a community advocate and chair of your Parks and Recreation Commission, I've worked on a lot of projects that have brought immediate benefit to the community and the city at large. Measure U, my work as a volunteer on neighborhood watch programs, which I've given many trainings on. I've empowered neighborhood advocates to make their streets safer. I would love to continue this work. So it's my extensive volunteerism, my project management experience as general contractor, my work ethic, and my strong stances on the issues and ties to the community that set me apart from my opponent. I believe I've demonstrated my ability to both start and carry projects through to fruition. I strive to be a candidate that I would vote for, somebody who is accessible, knowledgeable, and will empower our neighborhood advocates to make creative changes in their community. I thank you for your support so far. I believe that we can take this to a win in November. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
So after 20 years of leadership by Steve Cohn as the District 3 Council representative, there's a leadership gap that's being created by his departure. What District 3 needs is a candidate with the passion, the experience, and the fortitude to fill that gap and immediately start delivering for the neighborhoods in District 3 and for the city. I believe I'm that candidate. I would ask you to join Senator Darrell Steinberg, the Central Labor Council, the Sacramento Metro Chamber, Sacramento area firefighters and police officers, and a number of the city council members that all have the opportunity to serve alongside if you elect me as your council member in District 3. Together, we can hit the ground running and make sure that we improve the quality of life in the neighborhoods in District 3 and throughout the city.
Thank you both. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, I thank the candidates and our panelists for participating. I would also like to thank all the volunteers who've made this forum possible. This forum has been designed to impart information to you, the voter, in accordance with our belief that a democratic government depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens. We hope that the insights you've gained from this forum will aid you in making your decision. This forum will be rebroadcast every Sunday on Metro Cable Channel 14 until Election Day. A repeat playback schedule is advertised on Metro Cable 14's bulletin board every day from 6 a.m. through 8 a.m. and can also be found at the Metro Cable website at sacmetrocable.tv. For voter information, please visit our website at lwvsacramento.org or the Smart Voter website at smartvoter.org. Lastly, we have a brand new website called The Voter's Edge, and you can visit it at votersedge.org. It's your one-stop for the 2014 election. The website provides nonpartisan voter information, and it makes it simple to see a customized view of who and what is on your personal ballot. The League of Women Voters is where hands-on work to safeguard democracy leads to civic improvement. Again, thank you for joining us, and please vote on November 4th and help make our democracy work.